My experience is probably similar to others, but there are some unique details that I want to share. And let me tell you, the final confrontation that happened last night kept me up all night. So, my amazing wife, who is 35, and I, 33, are rapidly approaching our 8th wedding anniversary in less than 2 weeks. We've been happily together for over a decade, and we've never had any major disagreements or breakups. I'm telling you, it's been pure bliss. We've shared countless laughs, gone on family trips, built our businesses together, tackled yard projects, and have 2 incredible young boys. Our life together has been an absolute blast. Here's the scoop. Last year, my wife interviewed at a well-known long-term care facility and was offered a top position by the guy who was now her boss. She has been raving about him ever since, saying that he's all about family first, success, and he truly believes in her potential to excel at the company. But things got a little weird on her first night at the job. So, after a couple of months, I find myself feeling really skeptical about some strange actions that have been happening lately. With this new job, there are some extracurricular activities like golf and fundraisers, which is all good. But some of the things just seemed off. I didn't have any specific suspicions at first, but as time went on, my gut feeling was telling me that there was something fishy going on with someone or something. One night in June, I was so scared that something had happened to my wife while she was out with her coworkers after a golf tournament or something. I paced around the house, worried sick. She had told me she would be back in an hour, but that time came and went, and then another hour went by, and then a third hour. My wife and I have this thing where we share our locations on our iPhones. It's not because we don't trust each other, but we both have young kids and thought it would be a good idea to keep tabs on each other. The other day, I noticed that her location was stuck in one spot, which happened to be on the side of a busy road. I tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. At that point, I started to get worried and wondered if she had been in an accident or something. So, imagine this. I was at home, about to call the police, because my wife hadn't come back yet. Just as I was about to make the call, she finally gave me a buzz to let me know she was on her way. I was so relieved to hear from her, but then she told me that her phone battery was gone and she was in a coworker's car without a charger. How weird is that? She's never done anything like that before. Normally, she'd check in with me if she was going to be out late. I guess it's because she's got a new job and new coworkers, and she's trying to fit in with them. But to be honest, her story didn't quite add up in my mind. So get this. The place where she was last seen before her phone went dead ended up being on the way to the restaurant they were supposed to be at. Weird, right? She had never acted like that before. It was totally out of character. Now let's fast forward a couple of months. My wife has been going crazy over her workouts, her weight, and wanting a bigger chest. Her morning routine in the bathroom has been getting longer and longer. And let me tell you, my wife is way fitter than your average gym goer. She has nothing to worry about. She's gorgeous. I met her boss one time. I swear, he never even made eye contact with me. And when we shook hands, his palms were drenched in sweat. As soon as that happened, my gut feeling kicked in, and I started to suspect him even more. He was only there for a short time and didn't really talk to my wife or anyone else for that matter. The only thing he said to me was asking what high school I went to, but he didn't even bother to look at me when he said it. So basically, he just grabbed a beer and took off. Then the last coworker, who was still hanging around, decided to invite his girlfriend and her daughter over. They all had a few drinks, and my wife ended up persuading them to stay for an impromptu dinner party. It was a fun time, and we all enjoyed ourselves. But eventually, the guy and his girlfriend left around 7 p.m. This is where things get interesting. My wife had been talking about going out for drinks with a friend to celebrate a birthday, but she was still undecided on whether to go or not. However, as the morning race with her co-workers approached, she finally made the decision to go. She went upstairs, took her time getting ready, and when she came back down, she looked stunning. So she gave me a kiss goodbye and headed off to a bar on the east side of town. But something about her behavior seemed really off and awkward, so I had to check in and ask if she was good to drive. She assured me that she was fine, claiming that she had only had 2 drinks throughout the day and that she wouldn't be out too late. I think she might have even asked me to wait up for her, but I can't quite recall. Anyway, I just decided to put on a movie and relax while she was out. Hadn't even been an hour, and I was already feeling strange about not hearing from her to confirm she arrived safely. So I turned to good old Apple Location to check on her, and what I saw completely baffled me. Her location was showing her at work, but it wasn't exactly the building she usually works at. Instead, it was a building hidden away and across the street from her main office. Oh man, I found out that she's working in a place she never even talked about before. It took me a while to locate it, but once I did, there was no doubt about it. My mind was racing with questions like, did she change her route? Is she making a phone call? What's she doing there? Why did I feel so uneasy about her boss earlier today? And why did she suddenly go back out? That's totally out of character for her. What the heck is she doing there? It doesn't make sense why she would drive west and park at work if she's supposedly meeting a group for drinks on the east side of town, especially since it has nothing to do with her co-workers. When she comes back home shortly after, she greets me on the couch with this weird, over-exaggerated smile that makes things feel a little awkward. She was only gone for about an hour at most, but I still can't figure out what's really happening. Wow, my partner just keeps telling me how much she loves me. But then, for a brief moment, a thought popped into my head. Could it be possible that she was with someone else less than 10 minutes ago? I quickly dismissed the thought, convincing myself that she was probably just in the parking lot to make a phone call or something. Looking back, I know it was a dumb thing to believe. So the next couple of weeks leading into July were uneventful, and I managed to push the incident I mentioned earlier to the back of my mind. Our boys have been attending a summer camp, which coincidentally happens to be located on the campus where she works. There were some challenging situations at her job that occasionally required me to pick up the kids, or she would ask her colleagues, you can probably guess who, to keep an eye on them for a few minutes, and then something unexpected happened. I just found out that her boss has been letting my kids hang out in his office, giving them snacks, and even letting them play on his computer. Can you believe that? They've actually gotten to know him pretty well. On a brighter note, my spouse mentioned how much they appreciate the support from their new team. Oh man, let me tell you about our trip to the beach. My wife's family and us took a whole week to soak up the sun and surf. We spent every day lounging on the beach and even took the kids out on some bike rides. It was a pretty sweet time. But as soon as we got back, it was back to reality with a crazy busy work week. And to top it off, my wife asked if I could pick up the kids in the middle of the week so she could go out with her co-workers, and I was caught off guard by this whole thing. It was our oldest kid's first day of kindergarten, and we had just returned from vacation. I found it pretty strange that my wife would choose a work outing over spending time with her son after his first day of school. When I asked her about it, she explained that one of her female colleagues was having a hard time with her divorce and wanted to put together a little golf event, followed by some food and drinks while they watched the first preseason football game. You know what's really bizarre? When my wife and I were at the beach last week, her coworker tagged along and booked a hotel room because she lives far away. My wife mentioned that she wanted to meet up with her before they went golfing because she was going through a rough patch. I mean, doesn't that strike you as odd? Personally, I found it weird, but I didn't say anything and just kept my thoughts to myself. So I said yes to picking up our kids so that my wife could do something. But here's the thing. The after-school program where I pick up our kids is located at my wife's workplace. It's not a big deal for me to get them, but it was kind of weird since they're already so close to our house. Meanwhile, I work 40 minutes away from there, so it was a bit inconvenient for me to leave work early during our first week back. It finally arrives. My son's first day of kindergarten. We snap some pictures in the morning, all of us together. As we walk him to school, my wife is in a hurry because she doesn't want to be late for work. I actually captured the moment on video with my phone. We've been anticipating this day ever since preschool ended, and all throughout the summer. But something's off. My wife is acting strange, not like her usual self. She's usually so enthusiastic about these kinds of things. As we watched him enter his classroom, I struggled to keep pace with my wife on our way back home. She's always been a fast walker, but I was surprised that she didn't slow down on her son's first day of school. Once we arrived, she quickly got into her car and sped off to work, looking very anxious. Towards the end of the day, I barely managed to finish up my work in time to make it to my kid's location, which is a 45-minute drive away. Unfortunately, there's a construction site With a temporary road closure on my route, and to add to my bad luck, there's heavy traffic on the highway. I feel like the universe is conspiring against me to make me late. As I sit in my car, stuck in traffic, my mind starts racing, and I can't help but think, this is ridiculous. Wait, why did she ask me to pick up the kids on our oldest first day of school? And why is she going out tonight instead of being with us? Doesn't she care about being there for our son? My heart starts racing because now I realize that I'm going to be late picking up our kids from the after-school program. I quickly call my wife to figure out what's going on. She's not picking up her phone. She knows I'm supposed to pick up the kids. Why would she ignore me? We're a team, right? Hold on, she's going to a hotel before playing golf? Am I being dumb here? It sure feels like it. But no, there's nothing going on. This whole situation is making me feel so strange. Ugh, I hate that I'm constantly checking this location thing in traffic. So, get this. My wife is supposedly at a hotel in the city where we live and work, but it's farther from the golf course than she should be. Naturally, my mind starts racing and I'm thinking, no way she's there with her boss, right? But if she is, they're probably all at the bar getting drinks. Wait, why are they even at a hotel? I try calling her, but she's not picking up, so I call the aftercare number and find out she's supposedly there with her female coworker. Something's fishy, I tell ya. The person in charge of the after-school program assured me that there's no need to freak out and that the kids will be all right. They advised me to take my time and make my way over whenever I can. As I approach the exit from the highway that leads to my wife's workplace, where the aftercare program is, I realize that my GPS is directing me to exit right by the hotel where she's staying, which is quite a coincidence. So here I am driving on the ramp, already 10 minutes late to pick up my kids. I'm being stupid and trying to check my wife's location on my phone while driving, and debating whether I should just be 5 minutes late to pick up the kids or not. As I'm doing this, I quickly pull over to a hotel and confirm my worst fears. My wife's location starts moving, and she's leaving. Due to some crazy traffic 45 minutes away, the hotel we were staying at, and my GPS taking me on a certain route to pick up our kids, my wife drives by in the opposite direction as she gets onto the highway. It was such a stroke of bad luck. Oh man, I was freaking out trying to catch a glimpse of her car, or even her boss's car, the one he drove when he came to my place and met me, but I couldn't spot either of them. I was so anxious that I was really struggling to keep my focus on the road and not swerve off the highway. Oh no, I can't believe I missed her. She just walked right past me. I'm freaking out just thinking about it. I'm pretty sure she was in that room for at least an hour. Now I'm starting to feel like this is my fault, and I'm trying to convince myself that it's not real, but deep down, I know I messed up. The guilt is really starting to weigh on me. I feel terrible for stalking her like this, but I'm trying to rationalize it because of how terrible I feel. What the heck is going on with me? I arrived 10 minutes late to pick up the kids, still feeling anxious about why my wife wasn't answering my calls. But now I'm starting to freak out because there's a chance that my worst fears might actually be coming true. And to make matters worse, she still hadn't returned my calls. Later on, after my kids and I were already home and eating, I finally heard back from her. I think I sent her a picture of us all hanging out with our shirts off. Her response was simply, "Wow, I love you guys." Right before we hit the hay, I decided to do something different and FaceTime her with the kids. It's not something we usually do, but I felt like it might be a good way to catch her red-handed if she's up to something shady. She picks up and I can see she's at a bar, but thankfully her boss isn't there. Maybe she was really telling the truth about being at the hotel with her female coworker. So I was with my kids, and one of them suddenly asks, "Hey, where's that guy who always gives us snacks when we come to the office?" Then the camera pans over, and we see him, grinning and waving at my kids. We said our goodnights, and I put the kids to bed. After what feels like an hour, she finally walks through the door. She's grateful that I was able to take care of the kids, feed them, put them to bed, and everything in between. She expresses her love for me, and we share a moment of intimacy. But even with all that love and affection, I can't shake off this feeling of being violated and messed up. Wow, the evidence I found was just too obvious to ignore. Fast forward 3 days later, and it's Sunday morning. My wife and I had planned to take the kids hiking for the day. As soon as we wake up, my wife grabs her phone and starts scrolling through it. I didn't think much of it at the time. She then gets up to go for her usual early morning run. As I headed downstairs, I grabbed her iPad, which we both used to listen to music. Strangely enough, it had updated the night before, but I'm not sure if that's relevant to what happened next. Just as I was about to open up Apple Music to start my day with some tunes, a notification popped up on my iPad that caught my attention. It was a message filled with emojis from my partner's boss. The message read something along the lines of, "Hey, BAE, good morning. It's such a beautiful day for a run." I had never seen anything like this on my iPad before. I absent-mindedly tapped on the message, and it revealed a subsequent one that showed my wife had actually texted him as soon as she woke up. My reaction was to panic, and I quickly deleted the message. Looking back, I have no idea what I was thinking, what the actual fudge was going through my mind at that moment. Well, things have taken a turn, and I've come across some solid evidence that I can't ignore. My wife comes back from her jog, and I'm pretty angry, but I try to keep my cool and don't start shouting. Instead, I tell her what the guy wrote to me in my own words. She's clearly confused and creeped out by it all. So I take her by the hand and lead her into the dining room, where I sit her down and stare into her eyes from just a few inches away. Me. "So, what's happening between you and your boss these days?" Her. "What? Nothing. He's my boss and he's almost 60 years old." She looks at me like she's just seen a ghost. Me. "We have our 2 adorable boys in the other room. What's up?" I showed her the text messages. Her. "I'm telling you the truth. Beck is just a silly nickname we all use, and we're just competing on our Apple Watches. I promised him I would go for a run. I swear there's nothing going on between us." As I walk away, I can't help but think that I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I should have kept quiet, let the text messages keep coming, and wait for something that won't deceive me. However, I don't want to keep snooping around and being sneaky. I'm at a point where I just want her to be honest and come clean with me. So we head to the trail for our hike, and things feel a bit awkward, especially with her acting weird the whole time. Eventually, we finish up the hike, which was pretty long and quiet, and the kids end up falling asleep on the ride back. I decided to bring up the text message she received earlier that morning and let her know that it's really been eating away at me. I mean, who texts someone first thing on a Sunday morning unless they have something important on their mind, right? Wow. As soon as I brought it up, she quickly acknowledged how terrible the situation looked. I could tell she had been thinking about it all day. She didn't try to deny that fact. However, she did deny that there was anything suspicious going on. Meanwhile, the thought of the hotel in Hash 4 was still nagging at me like a constant headache. Later that night, we opened up a bottle of wine and talked about the text message again. I was hoping that maybe she would reveal more information, but unfortunately, she just continued to deny any wrongdoing and reassure me that everything was fine. Fast forward, almost 3 weeks later, I had a crazy experience last Saturday. I woke up with a horrible gut feeling that my wife was cheating on me. This happened on the same day as one of the biggest events my company hosts every year, so needless to say, I was pretty stressed out. Despite being busy with work, I couldn't stop thinking about the hotel incident that had been bothering me for weeks. To top it off, my wife and I used to go to the gym together, but she went with our kids while I went to work. I was a wreck inside while trying to set up for the event, and it felt like everything was just boiling over. I had a crazy experience last Saturday. I woke up with a horrible gut feeling that my wife was cheating on me. This happened on the same day as one of the biggest events my company hosts every year, so needless to say, I was pretty stressed out. Despite being busy with work, I couldn't stop thinking about the hotel incident that had been bothering me for weeks. To top it off, my wife and I used to go to the gym together, but she went with our kids while I went to work. I was a wreck inside while trying to set up for the event, and it felt like everything was just boiling over. I also want to take care of something that I'd been meaning to do for the past 3 weeks. So I decided to call the hotel. I'm praying so hard that the universe will somehow give me a sign and reveal that my wife's female coworker was the one who booked the hotel room. My phone starts ringing, and I quickly hang up after the second ring. But then I start to second-guess myself. Do I really want to know the truth? Maybe it's better not to. I've got work to do anyway, so I push the thought aside for now. Meanwhile, My wife is at home taking care of the kids. I feel guilty that I'm not rushing back to be with her, even though I might have enough time to make it home before bedtime. As the day draws to a close, I can't shake the feeling that something is off. It's Sunday morning, and we made plans to go to her brother's place to watch football. Unfortunately, I had to go into work, which is not typical for weekends, to deal with some issues from the previous day's event. Meanwhile, she headed to the gym with the intention of picking me up at my workplace so we could go to her brother's place together. As I began packing my things, I noticed her iPad was almost calling out to me. I grab her iPad and take a seat, feeling a bit guilty, but also knowing that I've been wronged in some way that surpasses what I'm about to do. She's already figured out how to sign out of iCloud and stop texts from coming in, which is a clear sign that she's hiding something. As I glance at her boss's contact card, I notice that she turned her location sharing on and off with him the night before. Okay, so I decided to check out my girlfriend's photo stream. At first, everything seemed normal. I scrolled through her albums until I stumbled upon something called deleted photos. I had a feeling this was going to be interesting, and boy, was I right. There were pictures of her in her underwear taken the day after we got back from our beach vacation and the morning before she went back to work. I couldn't help but wonder who she sent them to, because I definitely didn't receive them. This is totally different than what she's used to, and it's making me realize how serious their relationship is getting. Then I come across what looks like an accidental screenshot on her phone of a text conversation with her boss from the day before they went to the hotel. Basically, the message is about how they're planning to have lunch together, but it's buried in a bunch of heart emojis. And to top it off, the boss ends the message with, "I've been waiting to see you since last Friday when you left. I'm waiting for you, babe." So, I was checking out my wife's iPad browsing history and stumbled upon a Google search for how to say one more day in Spanish. She searched for it on the day she sent me those steamy panty pics and the day before we went back to work. It made me think about how she used to flirt with me when we first got together over 10 years ago. Now, someone else gets to experience that side of her. I can't deny it anymore. After 2 months of trying to ignore the obvious, I'm now completely convinced that my life is about to take a major turn. As planned, I head to my business and she meets me there with the kids. We spend some time together, but I'm still in shock, and she can tell that something is off. We drive to her brother's place, barely speaking a word during the ride. The whole visit is just unbearably uncomfortable because I'm sitting there trying to process this realization while she's sitting across from me, looking absolutely petrified. So, I decided to reach out to a partner of mine, a guy I work with and who also happens to be a partner at a really well-respected law firm in the area. He's actually one of the best divorce lawyers in the state, so I figured he might be able to give me some advice. So I contacted him, and he called me right away. I quickly step outside and try to explain everything to him, but I'm stuttering and panicking. Thankfully, he manages to calm me down and advises me that the best thing to do is to have an honest conversation with her face to face. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how the situation came to be. What truly matters is what's written on those cards. So, I talked to my lawyer and we headed back home. There's this intense feeling of tension between us, and no one talks. Once I'm pretty sure the kids are asleep, I go to the kitchen and wait for her. I bring up the same question I asked her before, what's happening with our marriage? Then, I tell her that I know for a fact that she and her boss have something going on, and there's no denying it based on the information I have. Oh man, she totally loses it, but not a single tear falls. And you know what? Before she even confesses anything, she starts talking about how she's felt distant from me all summer. Like, no kidding, right? The first time anything weird happened was back in early June, and it's been happening like clockwork every month since she started working with this dude. Then she goes on to say they hang out, but won't admit to anything more. So I just come out and ask her straight up, have you been getting close with him? No way. Definitely not. Did something go down? Not at all, I ask again. Eventually, she spills the beans that they kissed. I take a moment to process this, then I inquired about where it happened. She stumbles over her words, but I can tell she's not being truthful. She claims it was after work. I pressed further. Where exactly? She can't seem to get it out. So I ask, did you guys book a hotel? She admits they did. Was he there? I ask. She confirms. What about your coworker? I have a question. She denies their presence. So you went to a hotel with your boss to just kiss? I confirm. She asserts that nothing more occurred. Hold up. What else did you guys do then? I ask. We talked, she responds. Talking isn't what adults do. They get intimate. You didn't go to the hotel just to kiss, I point out. She doesn't dispute this, but she insists that nothing else happened. She claims she couldn't bring herself to do it. We had a long discussion about this, and it was pretty terrible. But surprisingly, there was no yelling or shouting involved. Throughout the conversation, she kept repeating, I want you, I want this, I want us. I don't know what I was thinking. She confessed that even though she caused some distance between us, there wasn't anything majorly wrong with our marriage. We went on vacations, had a great bed life, raised our kids, and went on dates. It took about 30 minutes for it all to sink in and hit me like a ton of bricks. Let me get this straight. You wanted me to leave my job early so that I could pick up our kids from the after-school program, which happens to be located where you work with this guy. And all this was so that you could also leave work early to go to a hotel with him and get close. And all of this was planned out while we were on vacation together with her family, and you conveniently left out the fact that it was also our son's first day of kindergarten. I remember seeing the text message from #6, where he was eagerly waiting for her. They had planned this intimacy for a while now, and I do recall hearing about the hotel during our vacation. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. This conversation is going absolutely nowhere, and it's making me feel like I'm stuck in a new kind of hell. It's the last place on earth I want to be right now. Eventually, we both go to bed, but when she starts cuddling me, it just makes my skin crawl. I feel gross, violated, and completely empty. After it finally stops, I spend the next 3 hours lying awake feeling like I'm in a daze. I can't take it anymore, so I turn to the internet, hoping to find some success stories about couples who have been through the same thing and come out the other side. Wow, there's no way around it. This situation is tough. It's all about recognizing that things can't go back to the way they were and that it's time to move forward, even if it's difficult to let go of things like money, kids, love, and memories. It feels absolutely awful and hopeless. Last night, I couldn't sleep and found myself considering divorce. My mind was all over the place, and I felt like I had been hit by a freight train. I didn't know what to do or say when my partner woke up and asked me what was going on. So I finally brought up #2 to her, and it confirmed my initial gut feeling. She couldn't deny it anymore, and her excuse of, it just started, was no longer valid. I straight up told her that I knew she was at that place with him. She came clean and said they only talked in the car, but who knows what really happened. This just proves that there's more to this situation than what she's been telling me. As soon as she jumped in the shower, I completely lost it. I managed to keep it together all night, but as soon as I woke up, I just fell apart. I realized that one of my sons was already awake and using the potty in the next room. He's been doing so well with potty training, and I was worried that he heard me crying. I collapsed onto the floor and cried my eyes out right in front of him. Seeing one of our sweet and innocent sons completely unaware of the world and so malleable, just broke me down. How can someone be so thoughtless and self-centered that they could forget about this precious child that we are entrusted to care for? Then, our other son walks in and sees his dad on his knees, holding his little brother and sobbing. I couldn't believe what my life had become in just a single moment. Everything had suddenly changed. I finally gather the strength to drag myself out of bed and head downstairs to make some coffee. My partner has no clue what's running through my head. I had a rough night, tossing and turning and thinking about how I'm not sure if I can move past what's been going on between us. It's like everything we've worked so hard to build together has been for nothing. I even mentioned the word divorce in the heat of the moment, but I have no idea what to do. We both sat there with our kids, trying to eat breakfast and come to terms with the uncertain future that lies ahead. It was definitely awkward between us. I took a walk with my oldest son to his school, which he had just started attending kindergarten 3 weeks ago. It was the same day my wife had planned to go on a romantic getaway with her boss. I had to put on a brave face and hold back my tears. I watched my little boy run off to the playground, constantly turning back to check if I was still there. He adores me, and it pains me to see him grow up so fast. As I stood there, I saw other parents walking in, some holding hands and looking happy. It's amazing how much my life has changed in just 12 hours. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot to mention that my wife has been dealing with this for a while now, although it's only been a few weeks since the last incident at the hotel. She told me that she's canceled her upcoming business trip to California with him, the one that I've been dreading for weeks. On top of that, she's backing out of a program that required her to work closely with him. Apparently, they'll be on opposite sides of the building from now on. Honestly, I'm not sure what to make of all this. Well, here I am, stuck in this situation. The idea of breaking up hurts me more than putting up with this current predicament. I can't concentrate on anything. My work is suffering, and I can't even bring myself to eat.